I couldn't have asked for a more perfect day. I love snow, and I am still a kid at heart. I was brought up in New England in part of my childhood, and we used to get so much snow that the snowbanks on the side of the road we would burrow in and make caves out of them and that sort of thing. And I can still remember, and I'm sure there's some other people here who remember that certain smell of wet mittens that are drying on the radiator after you spent your whole day, you were out in the snow and you had your snow pants on and your snow boots and your muffler and all those kinds of things. And still today, whenever I see snow or think of snow, I think of all those fun childhood memories. But I'm also excited today because usually, let's see, this is the first Sunday of the new year at the Mindful Spiritual Center. And it's so perfect because we're all at home. And so we could all actually use this today or tomorrow, but we've got the really a whole 48 hours where a lot of our extra responsibilities are home. We have the opportunity to be still, and we can each do our own spiritual retreat for the new year. So today, that's what I'm going to talk about is just about, the new year, new starts, resolutions and all those kinds of things. And I'm sure there's some of us are really into all of that and have already written out our resolutions or looked through the past year and done certain things. And there's probably some of us who thought we were going to do it, but already we've been jumping into running around and getting ready for a snowstorm and catching up with things and maybe haven't had time or even thought that it was really necessary to sit down and really think about the new year. But I think, especially in these times, it's particularly important to set the tone and to set our intentions for the new year because we're each spiritual beings. And I've said this in my last couple of talks. I was deeply touched when Lena mentioned, sometime I think it was in October or November, you know, we're, we're the light bearers. And it's by our example and our thought that we will create peace and change and love and all the different qualities that we want in our world today. And so by setting intentions and by taking the time to really be still with our spiritual nature, we have the opportunity to make that change. We have the opportunity to actually walk the talk of spirituality. And I think it's particularly noteworthy that as I am talking today, President Jimmy Carter is lying in state in his hometown of Plains, Georgia. Because if there's ever any person that I could think of in these times who really walked the talk of what it is to be a spiritual person, that's one of them. And may each one of us in our own lives, especially as we take some time today, set some intentions for walking the talk of peace, walking the talk of kindness, walking the talk of intention, walking the talk of adventure, walking the talk of flexibility, walking the talk of love. Whatever it is that we feel we can bring into this world, it is time for us to really be still for even a little bit this afternoon and really consider what it is that we want to put out into this world of ours. Because we are those who are carrying the light that will go out into the rest of the world. So I'm just going to share a couple of just thoughts as we go into this afternoon of things that you might consider, things that you might want to do. And I think the first thing is to realize that while some people might really sort of poo-poo the whole idea of New Year's and New Year's resolutions and all of this goal setting and all this kind of stuff, the fact of the matter is we were born to be creators. As Ernest Holmes, the founder of the Church of Religious Science, which is now the Centers for Spiritual Living, but certainly one of the great teachers in metaphysical spirituality. Here's what he had to say. Each one of us should be thinking of ourselves as an outlet through which the activity of spirit may flow. In fact, it is only as the qualities of God do flow through us that we may more fully partake of God's nature. And that, after all, is our task, to be more fully expressive of the nature of God, the Father, within each of us. Each one of us has the privilege and the responsibility of being a clear channel for the flow of God through us as us. So let's keep that in mind as we sort of consider what we might do this afternoon for our own little spiritual retreat. Whether it's just taking a moment to think of what changes you want to make in yourself or what new things you want to create. So first of all, one thing I would like to share is that it is a good place today to take a look at what are some new things you'd like to try this year. And the reason I bring up new things is a lot of times when we're thinking of resolutions or new behaviors, we think of things that we should be doing. Oh, I should be losing weight. I should do more exercise. I should be drinking more water. And all of these should kinds of things. And what I'd like to encourage you to do is instead, what about thinking about things you'd like to try? New things. Last year, my new thing was I invested in it's on a, let me think, it's on a, what would you call it? A Lazy Susan, and it's a special table that I can do 1,000-piece puzzles on. And puzzles have become one of my ways of taking a mental break because I do a lot of, writing and thinking because I'm writing a blog and a website and I'm doing all these kinds of creative things. Sometimes my brain just gets tired. I need to do something different. So I started doing puzzles, and it's sort of a reward. If I do get something done, then I go spend 25 minutes and find maybe one more puzzle out of thousands of them. But that's one new thing that I did. But think of some new things that you'd like to try, some new things that would be fun. Why does it always have to be stuff that we should do or we have to do? So that would be one of my first pieces of advice. Think of some things that you'd like to explore. Maybe you've never done any gardening. Well, maybe you don't have a great big garden outside, but maybe you could get one of those little terrariums or a little Japanese, I forget what those, I can't remember the name of those trees, but a bonsai tree. There's so many different things to explore, and we have such an interesting world. And now, especially with the internet, so many new things that you can learn. So one thing I might suggest, even though you can still do all the healthy resolutions if you want to do them, include some new adventures, some new things to try, or maybe just each month make a resolution or a commitment to yourself that you're going to explore a new place around where you live, or go to a different park, or see a different part of the city and be a tourist instead of being an inhabitant who, like, never, we take everything for granted, and maybe you've never even been up to the top of the arch if you're living in St. Louis. So make some space for things that are fun, for things that are new adventure, and to be the expressive, creative person that you were born to be. Another thing, if you decide to do health and wellness kinds of changes, like losing the weight, drinking more water, doing more exercise, and all of those, from a spiritual point of view, you might consider changing that lens around slightly to the point of self-compassion. I think a lot of times when we make these kinds of resolutions about being more healthy, whatever those habits might be, we come at them from a place of judgment and negativity. In other words, we're saying, well, I'm too this or I'm not enough that. And so therefore I have to do this and that. Instead, come from a place of I am taking wonderful care of myself. I am taking care of myself by doing this, by creating this new habit, by doing this new behavior. Instead of saying, I have to do this because I'm not enough of that. Because as soon as we say, I am not, we're going right into negativity. And anybody, which all of us have been, if you've been exposed to any metaphysical thought, we all know, just common sense. The more we focus on the negative, the more we keep on producing negativity. So if you've tried a resolution in the past and it has never worked, one of the reasons probably is because it came from a negative place. So instead, here's something, a different tack. Start celebrating instead of judging. Start celebrating yourself instead of judging. As most of you know, I'm a tiny habits coach. And one of the things that we show people how to do is how to create new habits, new behaviors without depending so much on willpower and self-discipline and all that kind of thing. And one of the keys is to come from this place of positivity. So what that means is simply celebrating every time you do the right thing. You are wired to make behavior change that way. In other words, when you drink the glass of water before you even have your coffee, celebrate and say, yes, I did it. When you put on your walking shoes to go out and do more exercise or do your 10,000 steps or whatever it's going to be, yes, I did it. If you take a moment and give somebody a blessing as you're passing them or they're passing you or whatever on Highway 40 or Highway 64 or 55 or 270 when the snow has cleared, give them a blessing and say, yes, I did it. In other words, acknowledging your progress. That is what pulls you forward. And that's really the way we were created, is to move towards the thoughts, because those thoughts are things. And when they're negative, they're simply going to pull us back. And that's probably one of the major reasons why it is that New Year's resolutions don't work, because we abandon them because we're coming from that negative space instead of being self-compassionate and instead of reinforcing the good behavior that we really want to have. And then here's one more thought. It doesn't have to be resolutions. Instead, maybe we could just simply make it intention, because a resolution really tends to be towards a final goal. And when you look at that, from a spiritual point of view, it doesn't exactly fit, because if you look at the old models of religion, the old model of religion was, well, if I do so many Hail Marys, or if I swing a prayer wheel around so many times, I am going to get to heaven or get to nirvana, or I'm going to be that much more spiritual because I did all of these things. Today, what's really important is what we are doing and what we are being now, not in the future. Walking the talk. Walking the talk. And I can see that Roger is here, and he will smile when I say this, because this is what I have learned so much from Roger Weinerth. And it is, start being instead of doing all the doing. So what he always used to point out to me was that in general, when we want to create a new behavior or get to another place, set a goal, we keep thinking, well, if I do all of this stuff, then I'll have all the things I need to really be successful at whatever I'm going to be successful for. And what Roger says is, no, no, no. Be it first. Be compassionate, be loving, be kind, be compassionate, be flexible, be adventurous. Whatever it is that you will bring more into your life. And right now, you know what that thing is. Be it now. Because by being it now, the rest of it is going to just flow naturally. And I hope, Roger, I've explained this in some way close to the way that you would. But I think that is so important. Focus on the being. And that is what I think was so much, and why there has been so much attention given to the transition of Jimmy Carter. Because here is a person who was a deeply religious man, but here is a person who was being that thing. And then he was doing all those things: Habitat for Humanity, peace negotiations. He got the Nobel Prize not because he started saying, well, what can I do to get the Nobel Prize? He simply was being that thing that would get that recognition. So being is really, really important. And it doesn't have to be, today you don't have to make some big long spend the whole afternoon in silence. I mean, you could choose to do that if you want to and just watch the snow. But keep do at least something simple. And I think maybe one of the simplest things we can do, which we teach with the tiny habits way. I can't help it. It's just part of me now. Is to start out the day by making your intention for how the day is going to be and how you want to be. For instance, we start out, today is going to be a great day as soon as you hit the floor. But then follow it up with one of these. Today, I choose kindness. Today, I choose flexibility. Today, I choose trust. Today, I choose adventure. Today, I choose compassion. Today, I will bless everyone that I meet. But focus on the being of it all, because that is the place where change happens. It's by making the choices, those tiny choices every day, that create wonder and beauty and transition and change in our world. And if we want to be in a world that is more filled with peace and compassion and love, then it's up to us to start being that today. So that is the message. You have an opportunity to take at least an hour this afternoon. You don't have all the big obligations maybe that normally would occur. Everything is quiet. Take some time and choose what your intention for this year is going to be. And I think deep down inside each one of us, we know what that beingness, what that intentionality needs to be about for our particular soul's journey.